Hello everyone, my name is Vipul Jain and in this video I am going to showcase how to build a multilingual app in PowerApps. So there are many a times requirements in your project, client requirements in the project that you have to build a multilingual app, which means that your app should work more than one language. So let's say your app default language could be English, but other languages could be German, Spanish. So if a German user accesses the app, they should see the app in their native browser language or they're in their native language. Let's say, for example, German. So in this video, I will explore all the options and I will show you all the options that how you can implement a multilingual app in Power Apps. So basically, multilingual can be implemented in four ways, I will say, in Power Apps. So one option is using component library. Another option is using the profile preferred language, which is your Office 365 profile. So in every Office 365 profile, you will find the option or a setting called preferred language. So we will see that. The option three is the language function, and this is the most important, I will say, and most liked option, I will say, which I like, the language function, which is by default available in Power Apps, which helps in the localization. And the fourth option definitely is Microsoft Translator, which is dependent on the Azure Cognitive Services. And there are some other dependencies which comes with this option. So in this video today, we will explore all these options one by one. So let's see this in action. Please stay tuned with me till the end of this video because I will be majorly focusing on the option 3 here, which will help you definitely in your projects. So let's see this in action. Let me navigate to the Power Apps environment. And before that, I will walk you through some of the official documentations which are available on Microsoft sites, Microsoft Learn. These documentation will help you to kickstart to understand the multilingual implementation in Power App. I will be sharing these hyperlinks and the URLs in the description of this video. All right. So to start with, this is the first option, which is component library, kind of a creating or developing a reusable component. So this particular complete documentation talks about creating a component library in the Power Apps and then adding some values or properties, for example, language property or the labels property. And then accordingly, we can use that particular component or specifically reuse that component in our app. So we'll see this in action now. And that was the first option I'm talking about. So if I go back to the PPT, the first option was using component library, which is kind of a reusable component which we can create. All right. So first I will navigate to the component library. This is the component library screen or environment in Power Apps Studio. Please remember that when we create a component or a component library, you get two tabs, screen and components. On the screen, precisely, there is no app section because we are not creating any app. So this way you can identify I am creating a component library or a Power App. For example, a Canvas app or a model driven app. But in this case, I am showing you first we will create a reusable component or a reusable component library, and then we will reuse it in one of the app. So for creating the component library for translation, or we can say it as a translation component, I have renamed it to translation component. The first step is that for this component, there is a property called on reset. So on the property on reset, if you go to this on reset property of this component library, I have created a variable. The variable name is where translation, and for that I'm creating a table. I have given some text in English. So for that I have created a JSON kind of a structure. Labels, having the labels object is having the property title and job title. Similarly, the same I have used it in the German language as well. So this is for German. ENUS is English and DE is the short form notation for the German language. You can similarly use for other languages as well. So that is how the component library is created. Once this is done, after that I have created two properties. One is language, another is labels. So this language property is basically an input type of a property. So you see here property type is input and data type is text. So here basically I am taking as the user as a language that what language the user is having. Second property which I've created is label. This is an output property, okay, which is kind of a record, and this property is created to give you the output or the desired output in a particular language, whether it's English or German. So once this component or a component, reusable component, I will say, is created, now this can definitely be used in a Canvas app. So now I will show you that. So you see here, this is a app, and now how you can differentiate that I am in an app or a component library. For app, I already told you this app property or app section will always be there if you are creating an app. But for the component library, these screens are given just to test your component. That's why they don't have any app object or app property. Now coming to the first option. So as I said, in the beginning of this video, I will be showing you four options. Four options to implement multilingual. I am pretty sure that none of the video can show you all these four options in one video. So that's why I thought of creating this video, so that basis your requirements, you can choose which option to go ahead, which option is suitable for you. All right. So here in the app, what I have done is coming to the component library. So this is the component library which has been for the screen for showing the component library demo. Now, once the component is created or component library is created, that is a reusable component, you have to import that component first of all. So how you can import a component? You have to go to the plus, that is insert section. Here you will see get more components. If you click on this screen, you will see that the component will be visible here. Since I have already added it, that's why it is not visible for me. For me, it will be visible in the library component. So you can see here translation component, which I have already added in one of the screen. So you can see here translation component, which I have already added. So to implement it, what I have done is that I have added a toggle. I have added a toggle precisely on this screen, and on the click of the toggle, that is on and off, because toggle provides you two properties, on and off, or you can say the success text or the failed text. So these are the two properties which are default available with toggle. So if I run this app, if I toggle it, you see it is showing me the text in either in German or in English. So this is the option number one. Now, how I have implemented it, this text is definitely coming from the properties which I have created in the component itself. Now, if you go to the toggle properties, so on the toggle properties, there are different properties for the toggle. I want to show you two precisely properties. Maybe you might be thinking that how I have changed the text as English and German. So there is something called here false text. So you see here false text I have kept as English. That's why if I run this, the false is English and true is German. And the true text, for true text, if I go to the toggle again, there will be one more property which says, I will show you the property which is true text. So true text is German. All right. And the other thing which I have done on this particular toggle is that on change. Okay. So on change, not on change, it is on select or maybe on uncheck. Yeah. So on uncheck, I am setting the variable as where language. By default, I am setting as the language as English. So that is how this is the option number one, using the component library, and a very good documentation by Microsoft is already given for that. All right. So this is the first option, guys. Now, second option is the preferred language. Now, this is a very simple and very straightforward option. So if I run this app, if I click on this option 2, you see it is showing me the current preferred language, which is EN/US. And why it is showing EN/US, how to check this? So what you can do is, if you go to your any SharePoint site on your user account, you see this is the user account, Vipul Jain. If you go to view account, if you click on view account, you will be navigated to your account settings. All right. On the account settings on the left hand side, just check for the option settings and privacy. In the settings and privacy, you will see here a section called preferred language. So currently you can see the currently preferred language is English US. That's why in Power Apps it is showing currently, if I go to the option 2, this is EN/US. And what I have used it to achieve, so this is the second option now for implementing the multilingual, which is preferred language. On the label, I am just calling Office 365 users.myprofile.preferred language. That is how also you can get the preferred language and can make your app multilingual. Now, coming to the third option and the most important option, which definitely will be applicable to your live projects or client projects, because this is based on the logged in user browser language. And that's why I have called this as the language option. So if I go to the PPT, this is the language function, which is by default available in Power Apps, and definitely you can leverage it to implement multilinguality. Now, before going that, I'll go to the official documentation of a language function. The official documentation of the language function says that the language function returns the language, script, and region of the current user as a language tag. So basically, LG-RE, which is region, LG script, and RE region. So EN-US, just as an example. So EN is the language. Please, guys, please remember and understand, EN-US is not the language. EN is the language, US is just a region. Okay, because English could be Canada, EN-Canada, or something like that. So EN-US is not the language, EN is the language. Similarly, Germany. So German is a language. So Germany could be Berlin and so on. So DE is the language, which is the German language. So a very good documentation is already given. I will share the link with you in the description of this video. They have given some example also that how you can create the localization in an Excel file or maybe in a SharePoint list. For this particular demo, I will be configuring my multilingual tags in a SharePoint list and I will be showcasing it to you. All right. So this is the third option, guys. The third option to implement the multilingual, and this is the most important option. So please pay attention very carefully on this. So this language function, okay, what I have done in this particular screen is I have added some labels. So you can see here, these are the labels: my browser language, welcome, location, and these are some of the controls, for example, text box and drop down and so on. So here I have added one more label which is showing me the current language. So to implement the language or the multilinguality for this particular language function option, what I have done is, first of all, on the app on start. So app has a property called on start. On the app on start property, I am creating a variable. Now guys, two important things. So please remember, I am going to tell you very important thing now. Two important things when it comes to the language function or multilingual implementation. So one way of setting your variable is like this. So what I have done is I have given the variable name browser language. I am using a function, coalesce function, lower left language 2. So from the left hand side, as I said, EN-US. So it will give me only EN, and the fallback language is EN. Now when I say fallback language, okay, your client requirement could be that if the browser language, user browser language is not found, the default or maybe the fallback language is English. And that's what we have implemented here. But there is a small issue in this particular implementation. The issue is that this coalesce function, what it do is, it will check for a blank. If this part is blank, if its argument is blank, then only it will go to the next argument or the parameter, which is English. But just consider a scenario. The browser language of the user will never be blank. All right. So it will never come to this option. That is my understanding. So I have literally modified a little bit this formula, and with this formula what will happen, that let's say if the user browser language is English, either it is English or German, then your data or the labels, basically we are talking about label translation here. So labels will be translated to English or German. In case the browser language is, let's say, Arabic or Spanish or Italian, we want the fallback language is English. And for that, what I'm doing, I am in the if condition, the first parameter I'm setting is as in English, which is the where browser language I'm setting as English. If it is not there, then the default language or the fallback language should be English only. Either it will be EN or DE, or it will be EN. That's what I want to achieve. So I'm going to show it to you now. If I run this app, and before that, even on individual labels, how I'm calling it, and I want to show you the list structure also, which I've created. So I want to do the label translation. This is the label, my browser language. This is just a text. Now this my browser language, how I'm doing the translation, what I'm doing is I am using a lookup function. Multilingual is a list. Multilingual is a list in a SharePoint. This label text it is searching for, if label text is a column in my list, label text is equal to my browser language and Browser language, which is again a column in my list, is where browser language, the variable which we created on app on start, then show me the localized text. Localized text is also a column in the list. So basically, I have created three columns in the list. Three columns in the list are label text, browser language, and localized text. So let me show you the list also. This is the list which I've created, label text. So this is the labels which I have created, browser language, EN or DE, and the localized text I have set for English and for German accordingly. So in the app, what will happen? It will take the browser language and accordingly it will show me the localized text, either English or German. So let's see this in action. Since currently my browser language is EN, my browser language is EN, that's why it's showing me EN. All right, and you can see all the labels are in EN. All right, so now let's test it in another way. Let me change the browser setting of my browser and I will change the language here. I want to change the language. So if I go to the languages, all right, you can see there are multiple languages. Let's keep German at the top now. So now my browser default language becomes German. Now if I go to the app, if I go to the app again, I'm just refreshing the app because I have changed the browser language, the default browser language from English to German. Now what will happen? That everything will become in German language. All the labels and should be changed to German because my default browser language is German. And the labels which we have created, they should also be get translated to a German language. That we will see this in action. And the third thing which I wanted to tell you, the most important thing, let's say the default browser language is not English or not German. Let's say let it be Italic or Arabic. Then also I want the language should be shown as English, and that is called the fallback language, which I was talking about, and that is a part of the requirement. That two languages the app should work, which is English and German. But if both are not found, then the fallback language should be English. All right. So our app has opened. Okay. Now if I run the app and if I go to option 3, we are talking about the option 3. Now you see my labels. Can you see the labels here? The labels are in German and the default browser language is German now, which is TE. Similarly for Arabic. Now let me change my language, browser language to Arabic. Now Arabic is my default browser language. Now let me close the app and if I run the app again, I'm just doing a simple refresh of the browser so that the Arabic language settings can be reflected. Now this time, what should happen? Now this time, since Arabic is not part of my translation, I'm only doing a translation in either English or German. Now the fallback language should come into picture and the fallback language is English. Although my browser language is Arabic, but still my app should work in English only. And that we will see this in action now. So since the app is loading now we will run the app once the app get loaded. And once the app get loaded, we will see that all the labels are still in English. However, the language, browser language is shown as Arabic because we have added a label over there to show the browser language on the screen. So let this app gets loaded. All right, the app is loaded now and I have run the preview of this app. Now you can see AR is the default language which is shown. However, my labels, the labels which I added are still showing in English, which is the right expectation and the right output. All right, so we have seen the three options. The first option was the component library, the reusable component library, which we created and used it in our app. The second option is the preferred language option, which comes in the Office 365. The third option, which I showed you, is the language function option, where you can play around in the translation of the labels. At the same time, you can also do the master data translation. That is also one of the common requirement in many of the projects, live projects, that the master data. When I say master data, it may be a drop down or combo box. These kind of data should also be translated to the browser language of the current logged in user. So these are the three options. Now coming to the fourth and the last option for this video is the Microsoft Translator. Now again, if I go to this official documentation, they have given the translation service details also in the official documentation. But at the end, they have given some drawbacks of using this approach. So very quickly, I'm going to show you the fourth approach also, how you can use it. So for that, you have to add a data connection to the Microsoft Translator. So you have to add a data connection to the Microsoft Translator once the data connection is done. And please remember, while doing this data connection, it will ask you for the subscription key. It is optional, still you can connect to it, but that key should be generated in Microsoft Azure because it depends on the machine learning and cognitive services. This Microsoft Translator depends on these services. That's why a key needs to be generated, and that key needs to be provided while making the connection. But as of now, I didn't provided any key. It was optional, so I directly got connected to the Microsoft Translator service. Now in this fourth option, what I'm doing is I've just added a simple label control, and on this label control, I'm calling the translator. So Microsoft Translator dot translate, and whatever I wanted to translate, that is the text I wanted to translate. And if I run this app in a German language, so this hello will be translated to the German equivalent. So these are the four options now which I've showed you in this video. This is very, very important, and it will really help you in the multilingual implementation in PowerApps projects. Now, the last part of this video, which is again, I thought very important to show. So what happens generally is that you create a master list or master data for the translation. So now you must have seen here that these are the labels which are repeating for the other language. So either you create them manually in the SharePoint list, but your labels could be growing as your app is maturing and growing also. So it becomes very problematic to create the labels manually. So what I've done for that, literally what I've done for that, and I'm going to show you that, let me delete the D equivalent of the English labels which are there. So I'm going to delete it from the app now, from the I will say the master list. Okay, so there is only English text as of now. I want to add the German text also for these labels. So as I told you, one option is to add manually, which I did. After that, what I did, I created one flow so that I can automate this process, right, in the list. So I created an Power Automate flow. I am manually triggering it because it's not going to be a regular activity. Whenever I want to trigger it, I can. First of all, I'm using an action get items, and I'm using a filter query here that browser language equal to English. So I'm getting the items from the list, which is multilingual. And after that, I'm using apply to each. I'm using a translate text connection, okay, which is Microsoft Translator. And then I'm creating the item in the multilingual list. The label text, the browser language, and localized text, I will be using it for the German language. Let me run this or test this flow manually. I'm testing it. So when I test it, it will ask me as an input that in which language I want to convert. I say this is DE. I'm running the flow got ran successfully. And now you can see once this flow gets ran successfully, all right, there will be equivalent data in the SharePoint list. So let me refresh the SharePoint list. And now you will see here this three data gets created automatically with the German equivalent. So this is just kind of automation which you can also implement in your projects. Instead of creating the items manually or the records manually in your multilingual list, you can use this Power App to create the items automatically for the localization. So that's all in this video. Thank you very much. Keep watching my videos and please see the description, comment and like my videos. Thank you.